Sri Gurubhyo Namaha, and welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's classes on chanting. We're currently working on mantras that are a part of the Agnimukham, which is a set of mantras used especially in the Sri Vidya tradition to invoke Agni Devata into the home of fire before we do any kind of homam. So last time we got through about half of the mantras, so we're now going to try to finish them up. So the place that we had gotten to was, I believe, after the Kamadhenu mantra, Om Klim Kamadughe Moghe Varadeviche Spuraspura Shrim Parashrim, that one. And then finally there was Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vaha Lohitaksha Sarvakarmani Sadhya Swaha. So you can find that place in the document. It's about halfway through.
I think we went about Tatta Kavachai. We will be starting at that's where we stopped.
Yeah, we can do that. So let me start the Shruti and do the Ganapati prayer. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnan Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanan Sarva Vighnopashantaye. Okay, so who would like to start with repeating the lines?
I can go.
Okay, Auntie. All right. So, we'll just start with the little Tatah Kavachaya Hum. Tatah Kavachaya Hum.
Tatta Kavachaya Hum. Tatta Kavachaya Hum.
Okay. So this next shloka is in Anushtup Chandas. So that's how we can chant it. Agnim Prajvalitam Vande.
Agnim Prajvalitam Vande. Agnim Prajvalitam Vande.
Jata Vedam Hutashanam.
Jata Vedam Hutashanam. Jata Vedam Hutashanam.
Okay. Agnim Prajvalitam Vande Jata Vedam Hutashanam.
Agnim Prajvalitam Vande Jata Vedam Hutashanam. Agnim Prajvalitam Vande Jata Vedam Hutashanam.
Good. Suvarna Varna Manalam.
Suvarna Varnam Amalam. Suvarna Varnam Amalam.
So here it can be written in a couple different ways. So I have seen it as Amalam. However, when I looked in the Parashurama Kalpa Sutras, it said Analam, which I believe means face. So I think Analam may be correct here. And also we want to chant it like instead of a gap between Varnam, Analam, we want to just link it together. Varnamanalam, Varnamanalam. Okay, so in terms of the chanting rules, we can chant it that way. But people might be used to the Amalam or Mamalam kind of a thing. But as far as I know, I think it should be Analam. Okay, so we'll do that one more time. Suvarna Varna Manalam.
Suvarna Varnam Namalam. Nalam.
Nalam.
Suvarna Varna Analam.
Okay, good.
Suvarna varna analam.
Good. There is a im sound. So technically it's like varnam analam, but because the two words are next to each other, we link them together like varna manalam. Varna manalam.
Manalam. Okay. Suvarna varna manalam. Suvarna varna manalam.
That's it. Samidham vishvato mukham.
Samidham vishvato mukham. Samidha vishvato mukham.
Good. And just notice the ka sound mahaprana in mukham. And let's do the whole line. Suvarna varna manalam samidham vishvato mukham.
Suvarna varna manalam samidham vishvato mukham. Suvarna varna manalam samidham vishvato mukham.
Very good. So what I'll do is I'll chant this shloka myself 2 times through as a practice. Agnim prajvalitam vande jata vedam hutashanam suvarna varna manalam samidham vishvato mukham. Agnim prajvalitam vande jata vedam hutashanam suvarna varna manalam samidham vishvato mukham. Okay, next we come to a line that is not in a specific chandas. Uttishta purusha.
Uttishta purusha. Uttishta purusha.
Harita pingala.
Harita pingala. Harita pingala.
Uttishta purusha harita pingala.
Uttishta purusha harita pingala. Uttishta purusha harita pingala.
Good. Lohitaksha sarva karmani.
Lohitaksha sarva karmani. Lohitaksha sarva karmani.
Sadhaya me dehi dapaya svaha.
Sadhaya me dehi tapaya swaha. Sadhaya me dehi tapaya swaha.
Lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi dapaya svaha.
Lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi tapaya swaha. Lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi tapaya swaha.
Good. And so here, even though it ends in a swaha, because we're not offering yet at this point, we don't say it as swaha. Okay, so that's why there's no swara mark on the swaha in this case. But let's try doing the whole thing at once. Uttishta purusha harita pingala lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi dapaya svaha.
Uttishta purusha harida pingala lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi tapaya swaha. Uttishta purusha harida pingala lohitaksha sarvani sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi dhabaya swaha.
Good. So these longer lines like this and some others we're going to come across, they can be a bit like tongue twisters. So when you're learning, just take it slowly. And if you're doing a homa, also take it slowly. In the temple, we tend to speed through these things because
I know.
the people doing the homas, they've been doing it for a very long time, like every week on a regular basis. So for them, it just rolls off the tongue. But for me, it doesn't roll off the tongue. So when you're starting out, just go slowly, take your time, be patient, and no need to rush. Okay, so that was good. So now this next one. Om Hrim Itis Thandilopari.
Om Rim Itis Tandilopari. Om Rim Itis Tandilopari.
Agnintrivaram.
Agnim Trivaram. Agnim Trivaram.
Brahmayitva.
Brahmayitva. Brahmayitva.
Om Hrim Itis Thandilopari Agnintrivaram Brahmayitva.
Om Rim Idis Thandilopari Agnin Trivaram Brahmayitva. Om Rim Idis Thandilopari Agnin Trivaram Brahmayitva.
Good. Sthandile Sthapayet.
Standile Stapayet. Standile Stapayet.
Good. So this is the point where the fire is being lit. So this is not a mantra specifically, but like a statement in Sanskrit that the Agni has been established.
In the Agnimukham book, they have put Standile Agnim Stapayet. Should we put that one? Doesn't matter.
My feeling is that because it's like a statement and not a mantra, like there can be different variations, like putting the words in different places. I think it may be that both are totally correct and mean the same thing. I based this on what's in Devi Padakas. So that's the version that I based this document on. Okay. All right. So then the next one is another slightly unusual mantra. Chit Pingala Hana Hana.
Chit Pingala Hana Hana. Chit Pingala Hana Hana.
Daha Daha Pacha Pacha.
Daha Daha Pacha Pacha. Daha Daha Pacha Pacha.
Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha.
Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha.
Good. Sarvajna Jnapaya Svaha.
Sarvajna Jnapaya Swaha. Sarvajna Jnapaya Swaha.
Very good. Just keep in mind there's a little bit of holding in front of the second nya. Sarvajna Jnapaya. Okay? Because that nya technically is a sanyukta akshara. Also, there's a small typo in Sarvajna. There's an extra N or na that shouldn't be there. That's just a little typo.
Oh, I haven't seen.
All right, so let's try the whole thing at once and just do it slowly and take your time. Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha Sarvajna Jnapaya Svaha.
Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha Sarvajna Jnapaya Swaha. Chit Pingala hana hana taha taha pacha pacha sarvanyapaya swaha.
Good. So this is one that I often get tripped up over because of all the hana hana da da and we go very fast and I get lost. So that's another one that I would say just take your time with it.
Yeah.
So very good. All right. So would anyone else like to repeat the lines now? Okay, Shirisha Amma, please go ahead. Okay, so this next section. So in a sense, Agni has been born because the fire's been lit. So now Agni has been born into the Homa Kundam, the physical fire. And so now there's a process of going through some of the important samskaras. So the idea is that first he was conceived, then he was born. Now he's growing up very rapidly. So we're doing all of the important samskaras like Jata Karmam, Namakaranam, Anaprashanam, and finally Vivaha, his wedding, his marriage is happening apparently. And then he's like the fully adult version of Agni Devata. He's ready to do his duty of accepting the offerings and carrying them to the subtle higher realms. So that's the idea of this particular section. Okay, so we'll start. Aim Namaha Asya Sri Homagne.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne.
Just a second time.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne.
Good. Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami.
Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami. Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Garbhadhana Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. So because this is repeating this first part, we'll chant the next lines with the full thing.
Okay.
Aim Namaha Asya Sri Homagne. Pumsavana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Pumsavana Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Pumsavana Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Simantonnayana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Simantonnayana Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Simantonnayana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Jata Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Jata Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Homagne. Jata Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. So now what you'll notice is that the next one is Namakaranam, which means being named. And so this is the first time that we're going to name the Homa that we're actually doing. So typically in the temple, we say Maha Ganapati Homa Agni, because that's always done. So even if something else is being done, like Sri Sukta Homa, Rudra Homa, sometimes we'll just say Mahaganapati Homa. But you can also replace this Ganapati Homa by saying something like Lalitagne if you're doing something for Devi, or like Sri Rudra Homagne if you're doing Rudra Homa. So you can replace it with whatever is the main homam that you're doing for that time. But typically in the temple on a Saturday, we generally say Ganapati at that point. Aim namaha asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Namakarana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Namakarana Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Namakarana Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. Aim namaha asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Annaprashana Karmam Samarpayami.
Aim Namaha Asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Annaprashana Karmam Samarpayami. Aim Namaha Asya Shri Mahaganapati Homagne Annaprashana Karmam Samarpayami.
Good. So for the rest of them, I think we'll just do the second part since we're pretty familiar already. Chaula karmam samarpayami.
Chaula karmam samarpayami. Chaula karmam samarpayami.
Upanayana karmam samarpayami.
Upanayana karmam samarpayami. Upanayana karmam samarpayami.
Godana karmam samarpayami.
Godana karmam samarpayami. Godana karmam samarpayami.
Vivaha karmam samarpayami.
Vivaha karmam samarpayami. Vivaha karmam samarpayami.
Sarvamangala karmani samarpayami.
Sarvamangala karmani samarpayami. Sarvamangala karmani samarpayami.
Good. Okay. So this next part, in the temple, generally all the people are made to repeat this, especially the sponsors. So people will go very slowly, like word at a time. If you're on your own, doing your own homa, you don't need to like pause after every single word. But in the temple, that's how they do it, so that everybody can repeat after the main homa karta. Arambha.
Arambha. Arambha.
Prabhriti.
Prabhriti. Prabhriti.
Etat.
Etat. Etat.
Kshanaparyantam.
Kshanaparyantam. Kshanaparyantam.
Madhye.
Madhye. Madhye.
Sambhavita.
Sambhavita. Sambhavita.
Samasta.
Samasta. Samasta.
Dosha.
Dosha. Dosha.
Prayashchittartham.
Prayaschittartham. Prayaschittartham.
And notice here, artham, tha is mahaprana. Sarva prayaschittam.
सर्वप्रायश्चित्तं सर्वप्रायश्चित्तं
होष्यामि.
होष्यामि होष्यामि.
Okay. And next comes the first offering of ghee and summit to Prajapati. Om Bhur Svaha.
Om Bhurbhuvah Suvah Swaha. Om Bhurbhuvah Suvah Swaha.
Pronunciation is very good. Just notice that the lower swara is happening on vas or vaha. Bhuvas, suvas, bhuvas, suvas. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time and then you can repeat. Om bhur bhuvas suvas svaha.
Om Bhurbhuvah Suvah Swaha. Om Bhurbhuvah Suvah Swaha.
Okay, again, the swaras are just getting reversed a little bit. So just take some time later to just do bhuvas suvas. So bhu middle, vas down. Then su middle, vas down. Okay, so you can practice that later. And that next one. Prajapataya.
Prajapataya. Prajapataya.
Idanna mama.
Idanna mama. Idanna mama.
Prajapataya idanna mama.
Prajapataya idanna mama. Prajapataya idanna mama.
Good. Okay. So next comes a dhyana shloka for Agni Devata. And this is specifically mentioned in Parashurama Kalpa Sutras. So this one, yeah, we can chant it like sort of a typical dhyana shloka that we might do, and it should fit pretty well. Trinayana marunabham.
Trinayana marunabham. Trinayana marunabham.
Baddhamaulim sushuklam.
Baddhamaulim sushuklam. Baddhamaulim sushuklam.
Trinayana marunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam.
Trinayana marunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam. Trinayana marunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam.
Good. And I'll just note that the word amshuka is, or amshukam is, I think, being split across this half line. So it's not supposed to be like split up, but I formatted it this way so that it's a little bit easier to see where the half line comes, because it makes it easier to chant the rhythm. So I just wanted to point that out. That's why there's a dash after it. Shukamarunamaneka.
Shukamarunamaneka. Shukamarunamaneka.
Kalpamam bhoja samstham.
Kalpamam bhoja samstam. Kalpamam bhoja samstam.
शुकमरुणमनेकाकल्पमं भोजसंस्थम्
शुकमरुणमनेकाकल्पमं भोजसंस्थम् शुकमरुणमनेकाकल्पमं भोजसंस्थम्.
Good. All right, let's try the full line. Trinayanamurunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam shukamarunamanekalpamam bhojasamstham.
त्रिनयनमरुणाभं बद्धमौलिं सुशुक्लां शुकमरुणमनेकाकल्पमं भोजसंस्थम्. त्रिनयनमरुणाभं बद्धमौलिं सुशुक्लां शुकमरुणमनेकाकल्पमं भोजसंस्थम्.
Very good. All right, let's do the next line. Abhimata varashaktis.
अभिमतवरशक्तिस् अभिमतवरशक्तिस्
Swastikabhitihastam.
स्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तम् स्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तम्
Abhimata varashaktis swastikabhitihastam.
अभिमतवरशक्तिस् स्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तम् अभिमतवरशक्तिस् स्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तम्.
Good. Namata kanakamala.
नमत कनकमाला नमत कनकमाला
Lankrutam samkrushanam.
लङ्कृतां संकृशानुम् लङ्कृतां संकृशानुम्
Namata kanakamala lankrutam samkrushanam.
नमत कनकमालालङ्कृतां संकृशानुम् नमत कनकमालालङ्कृतां संकृशानुम्.
Good. Let's try the whole line. Abhimata varashaktis swastikabhitihastam namata kanakamala lankrutam samkrushanam.
अभिमतवरशक्तिस्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तं नमत कनकमालालङ्कृतां संकृशानुम् अभिमतवरशक्तिस्वस्तिकाभीतिहस्तं नमत कनकमालालङ्कृतां संकृशानुम्.
Very good. Okay. So it's a tricky one, especially if we go very fast, but definitely slowing it down a little bit, chanting according to the rhythm of the mantras, and just having like a little familiar tune is very helpful. So what I'll do is I'll chant this one by myself. I'll do the whole thing through 2 times as a practice. Trinayanamurunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam shukamarunamanekalpamam bhojasamstham abhimata varashaktis swastikabhitihastam namata kanakamala lankrutam samkrushanam. Trinayanamurunabham baddhamaulim sushuklam shukamarunamanekalpamam bhojasamstham Abhimata varashakti swastika bhiti hastam namata kanakamala lankrutam samgrushanam. Okay, all right. So this next little shloka, sometimes it's included, sometimes it's not. I think it's not always chanted in the temple. At least I don't remember hearing it very much. So it may be sort of an extra variation, but we can go through it quickly. I also think it's possible that samitato might not be exactly that. There might be some small typo in there. So I need to research that a little bit, but we can chant it this way anyway. So Shirisha Amma, you can repeat the lines. And this one we can do pretty much like Anushtup Chandas. Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet
Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet. Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet.
samitato meshu deshikaha
Samitato meshu deshikaha. Samitato meshu deshikaha.
Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet samitato meshu deshikaha.
Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet samitato meshu deshikaha. Vaishvanarasthitam dhyayet samitato meshu deshikaha.
Good. Sayanamajjaho meshu
Sayanamajjaho meshu. Sayanamajjaho meshu.
nishannam seshu vasthushuhu.
Nishannam seshu vasthushuhu. Nishannam seshu vasthushuhu.
Good. Sayanamajjaho meshu nishannam seshu vasthushuhu.
Sayanamajjaho meshu nishannam seshu vasthushuhu. Sayanamajjaho meshu nishannam seshu vasthushuhu.
Very good. As you practice it and get familiar, you can avoid any gap in the middle because the shu in homeshu is hrasva, so no need for any gap there. Okay. Okay, so very good. Would anyone else like to repeat the lines from here? Okay, Rupa Amma, please go ahead. So for this, I'm just going to leave off the Aim Hrim Shrim. So here we would be, like it says in the text, saying Aim Hrim Shrim, but we're just going to focus on the mantras that come after. Jata Veda Se Namaha.
Jada Veda Se Namaha. Jada Veda Se Namaha.
Sapta Jihvaya Namaha.
Sapta Jihvaya Namaha. Sapta Jihvaya Namaha.
Good. Havyavahanaya Namaha.
Havyavahanaya Namaha. Havyavahanaya Namaha.
Ashvodaraya Namaha.
Ashvodaraya Namaha. Ashvodaraya Namaha.
Vaishvanaraya Namaha.
Vaishvanaraya Namaha. Vaishvanaraya Namaha.
Kaumaratejase namaha.
Kaumaratejase namaha. Kaumaratejase namaha.
Good. Vishvamukhaya namaha.
Vishvamukhaya namaha. Vishvamukhaya namaha.
Good. Devamukhaya namaha.
Devamukhaya namaha. Devamukhaya namaha.
Good. All right, so this next section we've already done earlier, so I think I'm going to skip over it because we've already done that one. But I do want to do the next line, starting with Ram Vaishwanara. Okay. Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda.
Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda. Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda.
Iha Vahalohitaksha.
Iha Vahalohidaksha. Iha Vahalohidaksha.
Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohitaksha.
Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohidaksha. Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohidaksha.
Good. Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Svaha.
Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Swaha. Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Swaha.
Good. So we've seen this mantra before, but there the swaha was like a regular one. There was no dirgha swarita on the final ha. But here, because now we're offering ghee or summit with this, here's where we pronounce swaha as the special offering style. So that's why I've put the swara mark there. And any Saturday when there's a live stream during the puja and homam, you can listen and sort of you'll notice how Shankaraya does it or Vilasaya. So you can hear that. Okay, so let's try the whole thing. Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohitaksha Sarva Karmarni Sadhaya Svaha.
Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohidaksha Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Swaha. Ram Vaishwanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohidaksha Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Swaha.
Pronunciations and flow is very good. One thing that happens is because we're used to pronouncing it in the other way, we kind of go down on the swa. But here, notice how the offering style, swa is the middle swara, and then ha is dirgha swarita. So that's just a little thing to keep an eye out for. It's a little bit tricky to think of swaha as swaha versus swaha. Two different ways, and actually both can be used. Rameshaya was explaining for Chandi Homa or other homas, sometimes the swaha will be pronounced in that first style, even for homam. It's not typical, it's not the usual style, but some people may do that. In the temple, we never do though. So we only use the swaha the way it's written here for making offerings in the homam. So that's why I'm sort of emphasizing a little bit the difference, okay? So that's something you can practice. All right. So then we have another series of mantras here where we're offering to different aspects of Agni in different directions. So that's why you see the directions and then a name like Hiranyaye Namaswaha. So those, every swaha, there's an offering. So you'll hear how that goes. Aishanyam Hiranyaye Namaswaha.
Aishyanyam Hiranyaye Namah Swaha. Aishanyam Hiranyaye Namah Swaha.
Very good. To be very, very traditional, typically the ma in nama will go down. Namaswaha. And it's very common, like say we're chanting Rudram in the regular style, the swaras will be one way. But then say we're offering as Rudra Homam, when you add the swaha to the end of a line, that last swara, no matter what it was before, it'll go down. So the swara will change in front of swaha. So next time you hear Rudra Homa, especially the style where they offer 169 ahutis, if you listen for that, you'll hear how the ending of the line changes because now it's coming in front of swaha. So usually the last syllable before the swa will go down. That's like a very typical thing. Okay. So the next part. Hiranyaya idannamama.
Hiranyaya itannamama. Hiranyaya itannamama.
Good. Pratyam kanakayai namaswaha.
Pratyam kanakayai namah swaha. Pratyam kanakayai namah swaha.
Very good. Kanakaya idannamama.
Kanakaya itannamama. Kanakaya itannamama.
Very good. So here in the first part, you see it saying like Hiranyaye Namaha or Kanakaye Namaha. And then in the second part, it's like Hiranyaya or Kanakaya. So what's happening is it's the same deity, it's the same being that's being offered to. But the reason why it's written differently is because of Sandhi. So Hiranyaye, when it's followed by the I in Idam, becomes Hiranyaya. And that's because it's the feminine form. Hiranyaye is like a female baby form. So it becomes Hiranyaya idam namama. Later on, we'll see what happens when it's something like Agnaye Swaha or Prajapataye Swaha. It'll be a slightly different change. Okay, but just want to explain that. And that's something that I didn't understand until recently. So I was kind of wondering, like, why is it pronounced differently in these two places? But that's why. So let's do the next one. Agneyam raktaye namaswaha.
Agneyam raktaye namah swaha. Agneyam raktaye namah swaha. Sorry. Agneyam raktaye namah swaha.
Very good. Raktaya idannamama.
Raktaya idannamama. Raktaya idannamama.
Nairarityam krishnayai namaswaha.
Nairityam krishnayai namah swaha. Nairityam krishnayai namah swaha.
Very good. And for those who aren't familiar with this kind of a word, like where you see nairityam, you see the regular R, and then you see, like if you're looking at English, and then you see the R with a little circle underneath it, which is the vowel. So first you have the consonant version of R, and then the vowel version of R. So people often are not sure how to pronounce it the way we pronounce, and what I've heard Chalakere brothers do as well, is it's like a ruru. So it's nairatyam, nairut, nairut. So it's a little bit hard to get used to, but whenever you see this word, so either nirruti or nairarutti or nairarutyam, just practice that little double flip of the tongue. Ruru, ruru. Okay, it takes a little practice to get used to. All right, next part. Krishnaya idannamama.
Krishnaya idannamama. Krishnaya idannamama.
Paschimayam suprabhayai namasvaha.
Paschimayam suprabhayai namah swaha. Paschimayam suprabhayai namah swaha.
Good. Suprabhaya idannamama.
Suprabhaya idannamama. Suprabhaya idannamama.
Vayavyam atiraktayai namasvaha.
Vayavyam adiraktayai namah swaha. Vayavyam adiraktayai namah swaha.
Atiraktaya idannamama.
Adiraktaya idannamama. Adiraktaya idannamama.
Good. Madhyabhage bahurupayai namasvaha.
Madhyabhage bahurupayai namah swaha. Madhyabhage bahurupayai namah swaha.
Bahurupaya idannamama.
Bahurupaya idannamama. Bahurupaya idannamama.
Good. Okay. So next we have the same three mantras that we have practiced before, but because they have the offering swaha, I think we'll just practice them again. But because we've already been over them, I'm just going to do the whole thing all at once. Ram Vaishvanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohitaksha Sarva Karmani Sadhaya Svaha.
Ram Vaishvanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohitaksha Sarvani Karmani Sadhaya Swaha. Ram Vaishvanara Jata Veda Iha Vahalohitaksha Sarvani Karmani Sadhaya Swaha.
Very good. So technically, Sarvarni Karmani is probably correct, grammatically speaking. But the way the text is it just says Sarva Karmani. So if you're chanting with others, you'll be out of step with them. Technically, grammatically, it's fine. But sometimes when we're chanting with others, you know, sometimes we get tripped up if we don't do the same thing that they do. So just pointing that out. All right, and then we have Agnaya idannamama.
Agnaya idannamama. Agnaya Idhanna Mama.
Good. So here, like normally this would be like Agnaye Namaswaha or Agnaye Namaha, because grammatically that's what we do for Agni. Here, because Agnaye is followed by Idam, it becomes Agnaya Idam. So you may hear both, but according to Sandhi, it's more traditional to say Agnaya Idam, Agnaya Idam. Okay.
Agnaya Idhanna Agnaya Idhanna Mama.
That's it. Okay, so we can do the next line. Uttishta purusha harita pingala lohitaksha sarva karmani sadhaya me dehi dapaya svaha.
Uttishta Purusha Harida Pinkala Lohidaksha Sarva Karmani Sadaya Me Dehi Dhabaya Swaha. Uttishta Purusha Harida Pinkala Lohidaksha Sarva Karmani Sadaya Me Dehi Dhabaya Swaha.
Very good. Agnaya idanna mama.
Agnaya Idhanna Mama. Agnaya Idhanna Mama.
Very good. Just notice the idam is like a regular da. Sometimes it sounds a little like you're saying dham, like idham, but just notice it's not a mahaprana. It's like the regular alpa prana, idam, idam. Okay. All right. So the next
One
line.
quick question.
Sure.
So the earlier namas when we were saying Bahurupaya, Atiraktaya, there is a dirgham at the end, right? But for Agnaya, there is no dirgham, or is
Correct.
there
So-
is no dirgham, right? For
Correct.
for
Correct.
Agnaya.
And that's because one is a feminine form and one is the masculine form. So because one is ending in yay, it becomes ya. Like yai, not yay, but yai. You know, like Dev yai. So it sounds familiar, but it's different sounds, different endings. So hiranya yai, yai becomes ya, ye becomes ya.
Oh, okay.
Yai becomes ya, ye becomes ya. Okay, so Agnaya idam, Agnaya idam versus Hiranyaya idam namama. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've come to Chit Pingala. Chit Pingala hana hana daha daha pacha pacha sarvajna jnapaya svaha.
Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha Sarvajnanya Baya Swaha. Chit Pingala Hana Hana Daha Daha Pacha Pacha Sarvajnanya Baya Swaha.
Good. Agnaya idanna mama.
Agnaya Idhanna Mama. Agnaya Idhanna Mama.
Good. Okay, so this next part is, again, not a mantra exactly, but kind of like a statement that we've, Agni's been established. And now we're inviting the Pradhana Devata, the main deity. Athagner madhya bhage.
Athagner Madhya Bhage. Athagner Madhya Bhage.
Sthitayam.
Sthitayam. Sthitayam.
Athagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam.
Adhagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam. Adhagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam.
Dakshinottarayatayam.
Dakshinottarayatayam. Dakshinottarayatayam.
Bahurupakhyajihvayam.
Bahurubhakyachikvayam. Bahurubhakyachikvayam.
Pradhana devatamavahya.
Pradhana devadama mabhakya. Pradhana devadama bhakya.
Mavahya.
Mavahya. Mavahya.
Good. Okay, so we're going to try to do it the whole way through. So just, you can take it slowly. Athagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam. Dakshinottarayatayam. Bahurupakhyajihvayam. Pradhana devatamavahya.
Adhagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam. Dakshinottarayatayam. Bahurubhakyachikvayam. Pradhana devadamabhakya. Adhagnirmadhyabhage sthitayam. Dakshinottarayatayam. Bahurubhakyachikvayam. Pradhana devadamabhakya.
Very good. Okay, so that's the end of the Agnimukham mantras that come in front of any homa. So next would be the starting of Ganapati Homa. So any questions on anything from Agnimukham so far?
I had a question, Ekata.
Yes, Amma?
When we chant the line Om Bhurbhuvaswa Swaha A Prajapataya Idan Namama, right? So
Yeah.
is it Prajapataya or is it Prajapataye Idan Namama? Because here it is the documents that you gave. It says Prajapataya. Other documents that I refer to says Prajapataye Idan Namama. So
Right.
is it ye or ye?
It's a good question. So both can be chanted. The more sort of traditional version according to the rules of Sandhi, which is how sounds change when words come next to each other. It's pataya, like agnaya idan, pataya idam. So originally it was prajapataye, like we would say prajapataye namaha or prajapataye namaswaha. But when prajapataye is followed by idam, so it's starting with a vowel, according to Sandhi, it's more traditional to say prajapataya, pataya. So it's the same situation as you know, when we say hiranyaye namaha, but then we say hiranyaya idam namama. And the reason why we don't say hiranyaye idam namama is because of Sandhi. So in the case of pataye, it's the same thing, but it changes to pataya. Pataya. So that's the more traditional way according to Sanskrit rules of grammar.
Okay, I still say Prajapataye Idanamasa. And
That's
then
okay. I mean, if that's what you're used to, I mean, it's not going to harm anything. But because I'm teaching in a more formal way, I'm trying to teach in a grammatically consistent way.
I'm used to so many things, but I'm trying hard to correct it. Yes.
That's okay. This is always a process of refining. It happens to all of us. If we had all been born into a certain situation in India, you know, maybe we could have learned these things in a very, very traditional Orthodox way from the start. None of us are in that situation, right? So we're all learning as we go along and refining things. And I'm still learning things, you know, even 25 years after I started chanting Sanskrit and doing a lot of this. So you know, we have to keep that attitude that we're going to keep learning. We're going to keep finding things out that we didn't know before, you know, and that's okay. That's really all right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Rupa Amma.
Still the last line, you know, the Chikvayam
Yeah.
and the Mahavakya, you know, both are the her, but before the va, we are saying, is it Chikvakya?
So it may sound more like a ka sound because it's very challenging to combine ha with another consonant. So because we're forcing ourselves to pronounce that, it may sound closer to jikva. That's not technically accurate. It's a softer ha, jikva, jikva.
Jihva.
But yeah, but it takes some practice to say it that way instead of more like a ka sound.
So, and the last word also is spelled is pronounced the same way. Jihva and Mahaha here.
Avahya, avahya.
Avahya. So that has a different.
No, it's not different. It's just that because it's so unusual and a little bit challenging, it might sound different because of my pronunciation. Avahya. Yeah. So think of a ha and then combining it with ya. Hya. Hya. So it should be softer than a ka.
Okay.
So think about when you like what's happening in your throat when you pronounce ha, and then what happens when you pronounce ka. If you notice the ha, the throat is more open. It's a softer sound, but the throat is open. Whereas ka, the throat closes and then opens. So when you pronounce hya, you want to focus on your throat still being open while you pronounce it. Because if it closes too much, it'll come out like a kya.
Okay.
Avahya, hya. So it's tricky because of the holding in the Sanyukta Akshara. It's very tricky. And actually, if you chant, the place where this really comes into play is Lalita Trishati, Stotram. If you chant that in a very correct way with all of the rules of chanting, you constantly have this holding on the ha sound.
Okay.
And it makes it very, very challenging to chant that according to the rules of chanting. But that's where you'll get a lot of practice if you do that, if you happen to do that.
It is
So just focus on keeping it a little bit soft and open and not too much like a ka sound. Okay, but definitely it takes a lot of practice.
And Mahaha here.
So there, I think you're adding a sound. So it's Devatamavahya. Devatamavahya.
Devatamavahya.
That's it.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so I will end.
One question.
Sure.
Where is this Agnimukham taken from, Mama? Maybe you mentioned it last time, but I missed it.
That's okay. So there's two main traditions of Agnimukham. One is Vaidika Agnimukham and one is Tantrokta Agnimukham. So this is the Tantroktam style, and it's based on the Parashurama Kalpa Sutras. So that's one of the texts that has a lot of information on Sri Vidya. So it has like about 7 chapters or so. One of them is for Sri Chakra Puja, one of them is for Syama Yantra Puja, one is for Varahi Yantra Puja. And one of the chapters is on Homa Vidhi. So it doesn't give like this text like exactly written out. What it does is it gives sort of instructions. So it'll be something like chant Aim Hrim Srim in front of the following mantras. And then it'll just list Pitaye, Shvetaye, Arunaye, blah, blah, blah. So it gives like a short coded instructions for how to invoke Agni Devata in the Homa fire. So it's very common for Sri Vidya practitioners, but I am not really familiar with the Vaidika Agnimukham yet, so I don't know how to compare them. I just know that they're different, slightly different traditions, but that's where this one comes from. It comes from Parashurama Kalpa Sutras is the main text.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'll end the class there. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ma.
Have a good day. Bye.